Everyone is chasing the same Lego sets, the hype ones, the obvious ones, the ones that everyone knows will go up in value. But here's the problem. Once everyone agrees a set is valuable, it's already too late. That's why today we're doing the exact opposite. And with that, let's look at the Lego sets that not everybody wants, right? Yet. Because if there's one thing that I have learned recently, especially after trying to sell my own sets, it's this. Demand isn't always where you think it is. And we've seen this before, and yes, I'll bring up the Batman Shadow Box one more time. I paid 400 euros for that. I might as well get some content out of it, right? When that set came out, people didn't see it as a guaranteed win at all. It was too weirdly shaped, right? For some people, not for me. Too niche, tied to a movie that came out in the late 80s. At the same time, the casual fandom, the casual Batman fans, right? They leaned and still lean much more towards Nolan and the Dark Knight trilogy. And a lot of people thought that Lego was basically wasting bricks, right? On the outer box, the actual shadow box portion of the set. And no one would want to display anything like that. That was the general opinion. Add a $400 price tag to that, exclusivity and basically no discounts, and it just didn't feel efficient at the time. It didn't feel like value, so people hesitated. And now it's exactly the kind of set people wish they had picked up earlier. Boy, am I ever glad I got this shortly before retirement on triple points, I think. Yeah, that was awesome. And that's the pattern we're looking at today. The sets that feel sort of off at first, and then they are the ones that people often miss. Most Lego investors, they all make the same mistake, right? They follow hype, but real opportunity does not live on Hype Street, right? It lives in Overlookedville, in underappreciated town, or just on misunderstood alley. So let's jump into our first category. Welcome to weird middle ground, not quite UCS level of display, right? And not really playset either. Let's look at Sally's Flower Pot and the Black Dahlia from Wednesday. These do not scream buy me now, do they? But they're opening up the conversation around sub-themes, which we'll dive into more detail a little later, right? I think the issue with the lack of buzz, pun intended, around these exact two flower pots is that they do not belong to the same theme, right? Being Wednesday on the one hand and Disney on the other. And the fact that the Black Dahlia released a little earlier. Had Lego started with Sally's Flower Pot, you'd now be looking at a potential new sub-theme of Disney flowers, which, I mean, that hyper targets the new demographic Lego's been aiming for lately. Millennial and older Gen Z young adult women. And no, I'm not saying boys or men cannot enjoy these, right? I actually think they look amazing, and if they had minifigs, the Black Dahlia would be sitting right there, right now. But speaking of mini dolls already, let's also look at the Lego Friends Garden Restaurant that released only recently, I think in January, right? A lot of collectors still ignore Friends sets entirely because of the branding, because of the lack of minifigs, because it's not for them. So these sets just sit, but here's the thing. Modern Lego Friends sets, they are insanely well designed. Lego has great people working on them, and it shows with great color palettes, with detailed interiors that rival modular buildings, with creative builds. And over time, that audience expands, right? People grow out of the stigma. Builders start appreciating the design. At least I hope they do. And suddenly demand slowly catches up, right? And by then, I mean, the sets will be already gone. Maybe like the ones from our next category. Collection potential. And that's something I feel like people often overlook, right? Sets that don't really matter on their own, but do matter as part of a collection. Sets like Notre Dame Cathedral. Right now, this set feels kind of specific, right? Maybe even a little bit niche. But if the rumored La Sagrada Familia later this year, if that actually takes off, then suddenly this isn't just one set anymore, right? It becomes part of something bigger. A European landmark collection, a cathedral lineup. And that's when behavior changes, because people don't just buy one. I see that in me all the time, right? As soon as there's something that I don't have that could be part of a collection, I kind of want the sets I missed as well. And by the time I realize that, oftentimes they have already retired, right? And that's when demand does not grow slowly. That's when it spikes. Something that might also apply to the Lego art collection. Because if you look at architecture, you have to look at art too, right? And you can find the same pattern here. This is Van Gogh's Sunflowers, which came out last year. It is a fantastic painting and it looks really, really good in brick form too. And then earlier this year, they released Monet's Water Lilies and the Japanese Bridge. And again, how this painting, how these impressionist paintings lend themselves towards the brick form is just fantastic. Individually, they are nice sets, but together they become something else entirely, right? A late 19th century impressionist collection. Now you're not just buying a Lego set, you're buying a gallery wall. And that completely changes how people look at them, right? Imagine somebody who's on the fence for just buying one. They might absolutely be buy both. That's just human nature. And if they miss one, that's the one they'll be hunting later. And this is also why something like the Mona Lisa does not really fit into this. Not because it's a bad set. It's not, I don't think it is. But because it's from a completely different era, a completely different style. And more importantly, that style doesn't really translate well into Lego the same way, right? The Impressionist sets work for me because they rely on color, on texture, and on abstraction. Things Lego bricks actually replicate really well. The Mona Lisa is much more subtle, has much more detail, is much more realistic, and thus is harder to capture in brick form. So instead of forming a collection, that kind of stands on its own, even though I do like the golden frame. Then there are themes that are kind of growing up with their audiences, right? So let's discuss aging audiences. Take, for example, this Fire Knight mech or this Guardian Dragon. They're cool, right? Ninjago has been around for more than a decade at this point, which that means that kids who grew up with it from the beginning, they're not kids anymore. They're in their late teens or even early 20s, right? And some of them now have disposable income, nostalgia, and higher expectations for their Lego sets, right? They don't just want to play with them anymore. They also want to look at them and look at something cool. And Lego is very well aware of that. These sets are more detailed, more displayable, more refined. I honestly think that this is a very smart move by Lego because instead, or rather on top, right, of chasing new audiences, they're upgrading the ones they already have. And that kind of demand, that usually shows up later because by the time people come back to Ninjago, these are the sets they'll be looking for. It's no coincidence that the 15th anniversary sets include a character display and the highly city builder leaning 4-weapons blacksmith. Me personally, I haven't seen a second of Ninjago, right? I'm in my late 30s. I did not grow up with that. And I'm gonna get that set because it's actually just that good. And I really, really like the recent mech with the sand green accents as well, right? The Lloyd's Titan mech 15th anniversary. And then there are rumors of more cool mechs, and I'm seriously starting to consider getting into mechs as well, because I love being drawn into more Lego original IPs, right? Much like I love early sub-themes. These sets feel like they are the beginning of something, right? So let's talk about this T-Rex skull and this Triceratops skull. At first, these feel kind of random, right? Just skulls. But now there's a pattern. And if Lego continues this line, maybe even expand into lesser-known dinosaurs, then suddenly it's a collection, which can exist next to the big, full skeletons for people who either don't have the display space or the budget to go all in on these massive, but let's face it, awesome big sets. And people won't just want the new one, right? They want the one they missed. And in collections like this, the first couple entries are usually the ones that are hardest to get later. Which brings us to our penultimate category and something that people are still underestimating, I feel like. Sets that aren't bought as Lego, but as decoration. Let's talk about Evergreen decor. For example, all of Lego Botanicals, obviously, and then especially something like the Magnolia branches, right? These aren't toys. They're not even traditional display sets. They are home decor. And that does change a lot, because now you're not just selling to Lego fans. You're selling to people decorating their home, people buying gifts, people who don't even care about Lego, let's face it, and weirdly, wedding planners. And that kind of demand doesn't behave like the usual Lego market, right? It's not about hype, it's about, does this actually look good in my space, right? And that gives these sets something that I think is very rare, right? It gives them staying power. It's the kind of demand that doesn't just disappear, it just maybe eventually goes out of style, right? But let's face it, the people who are in that demographic, they cannot necessarily spot that these are in fact Lego bricks. Hard to spot is also future nostalgia. So finally, let's get ready for things to come. Let's look and talk about this Lego Mega Team Leader from the Fortnite subtheme. This one just, I don't know, speaks to me. I'm not even a Fortnite player. I played like 2 minutes in my life and I still really like this set because it's bold, it's displayable, It feels like a collector piece, and it pairs really well with something like the now retired Peely Bone. And I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if LEGO turns this into a pattern. One big Fortnite collector set per year. And if recent rumors are any indication, I think I'm spot on with this one. Because if they do, these aren't just random releases anymore, right? They become a lineup. And in a few years, as people age out of Fortnite, they'll want to reconnect with that part of their childhood. And that's when sets like these stop being current and start being nostalgic. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't win, right, by buying what everyone already wants. You win by noticing what they don't yet. And LEGO collecting, and yeah, sure, let's go there, LEGO investing, isn't about being right today. It's only about being right early enough. But I want to hear from you. What's a LEGO set that you think people are completely overlooking right now? Let me know down in the comments, and if you want more videos like this, right, breaking down trends or mistakes or opportunities in LEGO collecting, make sure to subscribe. Right now we only need like 50 more subs to hit full monetization. That would be fantastic, and if you want to help with that, I'd appreciate you even more than I already do. Just, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for checking out my other videos. That really means a lot to you. And if you want to help out even more, I don't know, hit the bell. There's a Patreon link down there. You could check that out. Making videos takes time and effort, and I appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Welcome to my ant card. This is just a hangout. Yeah, I'm a crank that shit. Bro, that's so damn loud. It's nothing but a little intermission. Enjoy these soothing bars of utter indecision. Buddy people, you can trust me. It's an ant card. I know all those fire jokes and get you saying hard. It's an ant card. This shit ain't some voodoo, bro. I know you want to stay, but it's time for you to go.